Are you, okay. Item 6, public input. Time has been set aside for the public to express ideas, concerns, and comments for subject matter not listed on the agenda. If you're here for the public hearing on the agenda, impact fee, facilities plan amendment, and impact fee analysis, sanitary sewer, please hold your comments for that public hearing. Please avoid repetitive comments. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and please state your name and address for the record. Is anybody here for public input at this time? If you'd come up to the podium.
Just had a couple of things I'd like to ask of the city, if at all possible. For the city budget, I know a couple weeks ago, you guys did a hearing for the city budget. I was just going to ask if you guys could do like an actual quarterly briefing instead of asking just for public comment. And then in the budget, identify critical problems that can't wait, those that have some time discretion, and then discretionary budget items that are not time dependent, meaning they're not going to cause catastrophic failure or loss or interruption of services. And then the second piece would be, I'd like to ask the city to start thinking about projects that can be shovel ready if the opportunity presents itself. So,
Can you state your name for the record?
Alex Larson, address is 609 North Badger Lane.
Thank you. Anybody else for public input?
Am I correct in understanding that the gateway overlay is not a public hearing tonight?
No.
I'd love to just take this opportunity to just say one quick item. We represent some property that we recently got a rezone on near the corner of Saratoga Road and Pioneer Crossing. There's a few parcels that the Planning Commission recommended to not include in this overlay. I just want to encourage you guys to follow their recommendation. We have some applications we're anxious to get in, and this overlay would impact it significantly, and it was largely delayed because of some actions by the city. So just appreciate your time and consideration on that. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Oh, sorry. Name.
Oh. Donald Trump. Just kidding. Logan Johnson, Right Development Group. Our address is 1178 West, Legacy Crossing, Centerville, Utah. Thanks. Sorry.
Thank you. Anybody else for public input? Okay, seeing none, I will close it at this time. Reports, anything from the council to report? Okay.
Just a lot of legislative updates going on, and I'm sure Mark will share with us at some point the relevant items. He's much more in tune with it than I am, but there's, like every single year, lots of things going on that we don't want to happen, so.
Okay.
Should I?
Nope.
I'm not going to retract.
Mark, we'll move to administration.
Yeah, one of the things that Stephen mentioned that I think is particularly interesting, I'm not sure where it's going to land, but right now there is some push from some in the development community to make the street cross-section for your standard street width 25 feet, which again is in opposition to fire code, which is 32 feet. And so I know that that's going to be an item of discussion. There are some other standards in there that would put essentially a shot clock on engineering reviews for administrative items and other things. There's also quite a bit going on relative to a lot of moving parts. There's some public safety bills we've got our eyes on. I'll send you an update. Probably tomorrow we'll get an update for you. We'd gotten one for you 2 weeks ago. There's enough new bills that have hit the floor and some changes. We'll get some of that to you tomorrow evening. So the other one issue that I think as a council we probably need to have a conversation on is circle back probably and discuss PID policies again. I do think that there is some legislation this year that we expect to see that would probably have some ramifications. Now, the philosophical thing that is very difficult is the current PID legislation, if they're going to be tax-exempt bonds, would require you to give the developer or the land developer sovereign powers, police powers, taxing authority, or eminent domain authority. Now, that is if they're going to be tax-exempt bonds. If they're not tax-exempt bonds, then you do not have to delegate those authorities. And I know that that's a pretty steep political hill for you as a council. So at some point, we'll need to have a much greater discussion on that particular issue. Just though, to brief you, there is some talk as to some legislation that's going to be coming, and we're not quite sure what that bill looks like yet, but we're told it's in the wings.
Hey, Mark, well, this is just coming from me, but this might not be as urgent as last year when we were talking about the Utah Lake and had to deal with some stuff. But since this potentially could come out, I'd like us to expedite putting a policy statement or something like that together, as long as the rest of the council's supportive. I think it's important, and I'm philosophically opposed to, for-profit organizations carving out a tax code to get tax-free bonding authority. And that's really what's going on there. That should be reserved for municipalities and some nonprofit organizations that use cities as conduits.
Right.
So,
Well, and on that, we have been accused of not creating a PID policy. We've not received a formal PID request per the state code, which requires there to be a more formal process. And so at this point, we're not necessarily mandated to have a PID policy, but because of what I think are likely the discussions that are going to be happening, it's probably best that we get preemptive in creating this PID policy. For example, you could say, our PID policy would not issue sovereign powers, but we would be willing to work on special assessment areas or other things, or other non-tax exempt financing instruments. And so within the current legislation of PIDs, we have flexibility to create that policy document. Now, that doesn't mean you have to approve every PID that comes through the door. It would mean, though, that we've established a policy that clearly stipulates the terms at which the city would be willing to work within that PID policy. And so where you've all been very, very hesitant to give away those sovereign powers to a non-elected group of individuals, we would then formalize within the bounds of the PID policy what that looks like. It's complicated. It will take several months to develop that. But if you're fine with Councilmember Wilden's request, we'll bring bond counsel in, we'll bring our financial advisor in, and we'll start having those conversations.
How urgent is this conversation? Can it be done through one-on-ones? Do we need to have a work session at our next meeting? Do we need to have a special meeting? I love meetings.
Yeah, I know.
We could have another one, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, fantastic. With due respect for framing this issue, there's probably some one-on-ones that, but when it gets to the nuts and bolts of it, I think you really need to have the public conversation as a council to say whether you're willing to grant eminent domain to developers, whether you're willing to create a taxing district where they have taxing authority outside of your, discretion. So again, there's policies that can be put in place, but, I think we're being criticized as cities, and specifically our city is being criticized because we haven't enacted a PID policy. But fundamentally, I can't see, you as a council being willing to say, yes, we're going to grant sovereign powers to a private entity. So, but we can hash that out in a very public conversation and make sure that the public's aware that we're doing this so that we can put the guardrails in place so that you can stipulate what that policy looks like.
Councilman Porter?
I think that Mark kind of hit on my comment. I'm supportive of Councilman Wilden's suggestion that we work towards that. And I just want to be clear that, it's not that we're jealous of our ability to tax and that we don't want other people to have that. It's that these people are unaccountable to anybody. There is no way to vote out the president of, unless you're a shareholder, there's no way to vote out the president of a private entity, a private corporation that could now seize somebody's private property and use it for a profit-making purpose. It's just, that's not what eminent domain was framed by the founders of our country. And I don't think that it's respecting personal property rights, which I know our friends in the development community are very pro property rights, and I think that's great. I just think they need to understand that everybody else also has property rights, and that we shouldn't be giving for-profit corporations the ability to seize other citizens' property.
Yeah. Well, and for example, on the taxing authority, as a council, you've been very aggressive about reducing property taxes. In my 11 and a half years with the city, you've never raised property taxes. So I think it's a bit of a contradiction to presume that you as a council would, based on your actions, be willing to grant a non-elected official taxing authority. So I think it's a philosophical discussion, and I know where you each individually stand, and as a council, I've always tried to represent your particular issues that you've expressed to us as we've discussed these bills. But again, it's probably time for us to wade through the PID policy discussion so that we're at least very transparent within which terms you would be willing to consider some sort of public financing alternatives for the development community.
Okay. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll go back to item 5 in the policy meeting. Kenny, if you want to come up.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you. We'd like to take just a minute of your time to recognize a citizen for her brave efforts in making a significant difference in another member of our community's life. Last fall, a member of our community was visiting one of our local eating establishments when they experienced a critical medical emergency and they became unconscious and stopped breathing. Despite this being a very frightening situation, Carmen Arellano, who's here with us tonight, she stopped what she was doing and stepped in to provide CPR for this person. She continued her efforts until our responders arrived. Even though all of our advanced tools and capabilities of our EMS personnel, the best thing that a public can do is early intervention. And she did that, and it made a significant difference in this person's life. We are grateful to have such amazing citizens like Carmen that are willing to step up and help one another out. Her efforts made this positive outcome and helped save a life. The emergency crew that assisted her that day would like to shake her hand and present her with a plaque in recognition of her life-saving efforts. Captain Rackman, if you'll bring your crew up. Carmen, if you'll come up.
Ann, do we want to? Good, okay.
You want to go.
I was gonna say we can come closer if you want for room.
You guys want to go in front of yeah, if you go in front of the. Just watch the cable.
Oh, I can't see it.
Well, no, because then it gets.
It's this microphone cable.
Perfect. Do you guys want to fill in behind her? Council, can you guys stand behind them on the dais? Thank you.
On top of the dais?
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public hearing. We have a public hearing for the impact fee facilities plan amendment and impact fee analysis sanitary sewer. Is that you, Jeremy? There you are.
Thank you, Mayor. We have been going through our various impact fees. We did the drinking water and the pressurized irrigation at the end of last year. We're bringing you today the sanitary sewer, and at our next meeting, we'll bring you the storm drain. We held an open house last week for this. Had not great attendance, but some of the key developers did attend, and we answered any questions. And as part of that process, we're bringing it to you. This is a decent increase compared to the other ones. This is about a 35% increase. It's going just over $900, just over $1,200. Primarily, this reflects a significant increase in construction costs that we've seen across the industry. as well as several reimbursement agreements that we entered into previously that are now have been rolled into the buy-in so that those reimbursements are spread across all users of the system. Happy to answer any questions. We're required to hold an open house, or we're required to hold a public hearing, and then you are invited to make a motion on the ordinance.
Okay. We'll open this up for a public hearing. Is anybody here for comment on the public hearing item? So please state your name and address for the record. Please avoid repetitive comments. Please limit comments to 3 minutes. Is anybody here for the public hearing? Okay. I will close the public hearing. Any comments from the council? If not, I will entertain Councilman Porter.
All right, I'll just say something quick and then I'll motion. Just that, want to point out that this is just covering the costs, right? This is not anything that the city profits off of. And so we're just basically making sure that future development is paying for its fair share of the systems. And with that, I'll move that we approve the impact fee facilities plan amendment and impact fee analysis ordinance 23-2 dated today.
Okay, I have a first from Councilman Porter.
I'll second.
A second from Councilman Podeska. Any further discussion? Podeska?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Karn?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We have the consent item I'll entertain a motion on.
I move to approve the consent items as listed on today's agenda.
Second.
Okay, I have a first from Councilman McComber, a second from Councilman Karn. Any further discussion? Karn?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Podeska?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Business item 1, election of Mayor Pro Tem.
I was thinking about tabling this, but I'm going to make a motion.
I was really concerned about this, but it is Councilman McComber's birthday, so this is your annual birthday vote that I'm giving you.
Then I will,
Mayor, I move to approve business item 1, election of Mayor Pro Tem, Saratoga Springs, City Code Section 2.02.01, on today's agenda with
Okay.
Councilman Michael McComber, the birthday boy, as Mayor Pro Tem.
okay, I have a first.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? McComber?
Aye.
Podeska?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Karn?
Aye.
I think that's the first birthday motion we've had.
Just to be clear, I wasn't really concerned. Don't put that in a minute.
It's already in there.
Okay,
It is my birthday actually today, so.
so Utah Lake Estates Plat B preliminary plat.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Austin couldn't be here today, so I'm presenting on behalf of him, but this is a 2-lot subdivision within the Utah Lake Estates subdivision. It was actually originally 2 plats, and then right before they recorded, decided they wanted it to be 1 plat, but now they're going back to the original 2 lots. So it's not any added density. It's just going back to the original preliminary plat. So this is where it's the lot on the northernmost tip of this subdivision. It's going back to the original 2 lots. And I'll turn this item over to the council for questions.
Any questions? Or I'll
I
entertain a
was just
motion.
going to do a motion.
Okay.
I move that we approve the Utah Lake Estates Plate B preliminary plat, Bree Beckstead applicant, dated today.
I'll second.
I have a first from Councilman McComber.
Findings and conditions, sorry.
Second.
I have a first from Councilman McComber, second from Councilman Wilden. Councilman Karn?
Aye.
Porter?
Aye.
Wilden?
Aye.
McComber?
Aye.
Deska?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We have item 3, the Code Amendment Gateway Overlay Zoning Map.
Okay, Mayor and Council, I think we'll, as far as presentation is concerned, make this fairly quick, since we've been addressing this for a bit of time now. I did list the purpose and intent for the gateway overlay there. You can look at that, or we can refer to it if we need to. Just what's coming up on the presentation here, there is a comment in the ordinance, or a provision in the ordinance, that says this amendment does not supersede any conflicting terms within any valid existing development agreement. There was one in the Saratoga Heights subdivision up on the north end of community in their development agreement, that they were concerned that they would still be valid. There's no concern otherwise, but just something to point out. There are some concerns or options that we have brought forward to the Planning Commission and have mentioned in the staff report regarding certain properties, and they're indicated as shown with a circle or X or line as shown here, and some of these are requests by property owners to not be included in the gateway overlay. That may or may not make sense with our proposal, but just to point those out. We have had communications with these listed developments or property owners, and just wanted to bring that up there. So just briefly, I'm going to run through the areas and the general. We can move back if you want to make any recommended amendments to the lines that we're drawing here. But the North Redwood, it says revised because it initially included all of that property on the west side of Redwood Road, which part of it is office warehouse, which we cannot include in the gateway, or we could, but then it would make invalid some of the proposals that we're doing with the gateway. The East Crossroads area, so you've got River's Edge development up on the north side. You've got the Steel Ridge subdivision on the south, and on the very east portion of that area. Let's see, I'll go back just, the yellow circle is the Tommy's Car Wash property. Also adjacent to that is the Pet Suites property. And let's see, whoops. Area 3, Pioneer Crossing to Redwood Road. Fairly big area. The area that's circled up on top is the Napa Auto parcel. You'll see some red X's adjacent to or on top of some of the numbered blocks there. They're representing properties owned by McLaughlin, who has submitted a request to not have his properties included in the area. That would pretty much render this area useless if we were to take out all of those properties. Useless as far as a gateway is concerned. Then area 4A, we've got two maps on this. One is to show the original noticing area, so the lines that we included, the properties. And then area 4B is what we've kind of honed or homed into for various lines that could be drawn, what the Planning Commission came up with, the recommendation on the bottom there, the properties in red, which you just heard the applicant come forward and say they would request that these properties not be included, as staff has studied that a little further to determine that perhaps those aren't as necessary. They're not fronting Pioneer Crossing. So as a staff perspective, we don't have concern of removing those properties from the proposed gateway area. The different lines are different depths at which, especially on the north side of Pioneer Crossing, that we could draw the boundary for this gateway. So 145 feet is matching an existing property boundary. 215 feet is matching the corner of the east side there where it jogs or makes an L. And then going 300 feet is another line. The 550 feet line is what was recommended by Planning Commission. And the original map, of course, went all the way to the north boundary on that eastern or western portion that goes up to 870 feet. So there's a lot of options that you could work with on this particular area. But the line, the blue line is shown, is what is recommended by the Planning Commission. Then this is just to show Cliff Lake area, what, in case there's questions on how we drew some of the lines on their property. Area 5, West SR 73.
Go back to that, please.
Yeah.
What am I looking at?
This is a Cliff Lake subdivision, so it would be on the western portion of where you see the number 6 on the property. That would be the northern portion of that property. So just to show what some of the. Yeah, parcel 6.
If you recall, they go up to Pelican Crossing.
Oh, that's Banana Point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, then the Mount Saratoga Boulevard is the boundary line for between there and the western boundary of the community for the north and south areas on West 73. And then West Pony Express, we've got 3 different areas just because of how the community boundaries line there and what some of the properties are planned for. It seemed to make sense to have these 3 different areas there. The one on the southeast there would be a part of SLR property. There is not a property boundary that represents that. We're just proposing at least a 500-foot square to make that particular.
Next to parcel 2, there's an open space, is that like a park?
Yes. It's green space for the Mount Saratoga.
Want to understand why it wasn't.
Right, right,
Is that the Mount Saratoga?
Yeah, that's not.
I flipped that around.
Right.
It'd be Redwood.
That's overly going down.
Yep, yep.
okay. Area 7, this would be the southern boundary of the community. We have a couple of options here. One is just to include on the west side of Redwood Road, a 500-foot square area, or 500 feet by 500 feet. And then we could do the same thing on the east side so that you're just catching those corners. However, this is the southern boundary of the community, and it is also a proposed alignment area for the Mountain View corridor coming up to the lake bridge possibility. And the exact alignment as how it hits the lake, we don't know yet, but this is our southern boundary. So we figured we could just capture that area of 500 feet going clear over to the lake.
I have a question on this, thank you. Can it be captured in our future annexation plan to have the overlay boundary also on the other side of that, so south of
Oh,
that?
absolutely, and that would be the goal, and that we would, when we annex properties to the south,
know.
that we would expand our,
But we want it, we
Gateway.
want it on both sides of that Mountain View corridor. Yeah, it needs to be, captured somewhere clearly that if or when that gets annexed into the city, that's gonna be gateway overlay. And frankly, if that road alignment shifts, the overlay is gonna shift with it,
exactly. That's the plan.
okay?
All right, so that's basically it. What I would recommend is if the council feels like there's various amendments you want to make to each area, that we perhaps make a motion on each area as we
Back
go.
and look at them now that I've.
One by one?
Yeah.
So I was thinking about that comment more, and I don't think it was fully addressed. What we've done in the past that I've seen is in the general plan, even though the area is not officially annexed into the city, we've noticed it, or we've shown it on the general plan map.
That would be great.
When a property is annexed, so it's not really the proper place in the annexation policy plan, but when property is annexed, there's always a zoning that's assigned by the council when you approve it. But I have seen that in the general plan, so.
On the general plan, we need to capture that wherever Mountain View corridor comes in from the future bridge, that there's gonna be gateway overlay there.
Right, yeah, I think that's something we
So
can do.
what we can do is we'll prepare an amendment to the general plan, just a comment somewhere where it fits into the plan to identify specifically.
On that piece of land today, I guess.
They do actually, that's right.
Well,
Well, let's go one by one here.
okay.
I have no issue with
We're gonna motion it one by one?
No.
this. No?
If anybody's got something to say about it, then we can.
We'll just, we'll make the motion if there's a problem, and we'll just reference the area.
What's the next one?
So when it's circled yellow, sorry.
That was just to show the area or the property of the Tommy's Car Wash, just to identify it.
So it just means that that's not going to be in the overlay, so they can have a space shuttle.
But it doesn't mean that. It just says this is where Tommy's is going to go.
Okay, so the design standards will go all around it except that.
Well,
So we're creating an island.
right, if they redevelop. So any applications that come in after today for this area, they will be subject to the design requirements.
And they still are under Title 19 or our current zoning requirements
Yes.
in terms of their structure. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Move on? Okay, so,
How deep like line A, the bottom line there, how deep is that off of Pioneer Crossing?
340 feet.
Is that?
Is that the right number of that?
okay.
No, it's 638. Look at the blue one on the other side.
So if you look at property that's labeled 17, that's UDOT property, so that would be an ultimate expansion of the corridor there, the Pioneer Crossing corridor. So,
So 18 borders directly on the south side of the right of way.
right.
Okay.
So these X's are from the people who own the property, and
McLaughlin's.
that means we are excluding them, or we don't have to?
They are requesting to be excluded.
But we don't have to?
Doesn't make any sense. Gateway overlay.
No.
Right.
No.
No, I was concerned that it was deeper than a lot of the other properties. It seems
It didn't
like
make sense.
around 500 is about where it seems to be landing, right?
Yep.
And so I was afraid that it was deeper than that, but it appears that it's not. So.
Because of the widening of the road?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm okay with that.
So is 15 already entitled, 15 or 16 and 8?
No.
None that's entitled today.
No.
There's no application for those.
Just number 6, right?
Right.
Okay, six.
And 6 to me is far
Six
enough
is
back.
Like what, like 14's already built, right?
Yeah.
Right. Some of these are already built, so it would be subject to any
14's the
redevelopment.
central bank.
I'm sorry? No, 6 is, I'm talking about other ones, such as number 1, I believe it, is it 14 or where that other?
14 is central bank.
Yes. So wherever there is current construction, they have already been set up for their
So
requirements.
6 has an application in,
They have a concept plan.
so that doesn't count. I think that they would still be able to go in there without, I mean, they just wouldn't.
Actually, AutoZone, based on the ordinance that you're looking at in 2 items, would prohibit auto parts.
Right.
So that's why there's that conversation.
Well, they already entitled.
They're not entitled.
They're not entitled to the concept plan.
So one thing I would like to add is have Ken read the objection, and then on the record, the council can, so per the statute, a property owner can object to inclusion in these new changes. So if Ken can read that, that'll also apply to the gateway ordinance changes that are being made later. And then I wanted to just point out as well that this does not go in effect tonight. It goes in effect when the ordinance is published, which typically is done within a day or 2 by the city recorder's office. So if someone were to get an application in tomorrow morning before it's published, they would come in under the previous code.
Does it have to be a complete and thorough, can have misses in the application? Doesn't, just like us, doesn't have to be a complete?
A complete application.
Right, so they
with
can't
all
just
these-
write,
On a piece of paper.
yeah, it has to be a complete, thorough application that meets, it can't say can comply throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to get into the real deep details of that code, it's a complete application that meets the city code.
Okay.
So, but I just wanted to clarify that. I just want, it's not tonight, it's when the ordinance is published.
Makes sense.
Can I ask a question though, Mark and Kevin? How long has this been posted out there that we were going down this? So my question is, how long have developers had an opportunity to get in a complete application?
6 months.
Since mid-November.
So, yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm fine with it going in effect till tomorrow, because they've had since November to submit a complete application.
So for me, I wouldn't exclude 6 for me, because it's not, there's no application, so. I can't exclude it because I have nothing to exclude it to. Because if some other application comes in that actually does meet code, and meets the gateway, then it's perfectly fine. So there's nothing to refer to exclude 6. And I'm not in favor of all the X's either. That's just me.
Okay.
Okay, in regards to Napa Auto Parts, we did not receive a formal request to not include them. We did have communications by email. I think they came through Tippy and working through their concept plan that they were asking questions about it. They were concerned, how does this impact us? We did not receive a formal request. Please do not include us.
Area 4.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so 4A and then 4B, so this is the original noticing area. And then what was included with the planning commission recommendation was the blue lines as shown, then with some additional lineage in there.
Personally, I prefer 4B. I even think like the 550 is a little deep, but like having a 50-foot spike strip at the back would be pointless, and so I think matching the corner makes sense there. But I'm in favor of 4B.
And I agree, and I'm okay with removing 12, 13, and 14 because it is outside of what we're proposing as.
Right, it's not facing Pioneer Crossing, right?
And anything on facing Pioneer would block most of that anyway.
Can you give me a measurement from Pioneer Crossing south to the south line?
230.
Yeah, 230 feet.
So, my only question here is, on the north line, can you just take where number 4 is and continue that line across?
That would be 215.
Could.
Because then you're capturing the
I know a lot
gateway.
of these commercial things are 300 feet deep.
They're 300 feet deep and it goes higher. It slopes towards the wetland. So it goes, the high side is the north side of Pioneer Crossing.
I'm okay with either.
And we can always, and Chris, any application that comes in, we can make exceptions on the backside of the property. Still, within the gateway overlay, there is the option for that if the building isn't 4 stories tall, et cetera. Any council in the future would be able to still work with people.
That's deeper, I think, than, the reason I asked that, I think that's deeper
Most of
than
them
any
are
other.
This is, 500 is the average, 500.
It varies.
The big thing is this is actually going to become really truly the new entrance to the city. That's, yeah.
As Pioneer grows.
Yeah, and then there'll be a little second to Lehigh and then back to Saratoga Springs. The joy of,
I like 4B with the red X's out.
yes, the circled yellow circle, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Okay, West SR 73, any concerns there?
Yeah, that's fine.
How far down, I'm trying to.
712 is the deepest point, but that's just taking one whole parcel altogether.
Okay, so that's Mount Saratoga Boulevard.
And Saratoga Road.
What's the 4-lane, that's
That's Mount Saratoga Boulevard.
That's the expanded SR 73.
Are those houses,
Okay.
is that plotting Eagle Mountain?
That's Eagle Mountain.
That's
yeah.
Eagle Mountain.
Okay. I was picturing the corner of SR 73 and Mountain View corridor, and so I was.
Oh, no,
So this is further west from that, okay.
right.
And again, in the back of that property, if something comes in that,
Yeah,
We
that's my
can-
only concern.
we can always-
712 feet, that's pretty deep.
because there's no natural property line, but you could always come in that back 200 feet, put something else and approve it later. Any council in the future would be able to approve it.
Yeah, at this point, we could just draw a random line through there that may or may not make sense.
Right. You're following a plot line, right?
Right.
Okay. That's fine.
I think though, if a developer eventually comes in here, have that conversation that as a council, we typically have seen it at 500 feet, that back 200 feet, if there's something that they were wanting to bring it forward to the council, they'd be more than welcome to bring it forward.
Okay,
I'm good as long as the future legislators.
Pony Express, 3 different areas.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Good there?
Basically, it just prevents the church from selling that corner as a gas station, which those houses would appreciate it too. And they're not even our voters, but they would appreciate that.
So would you prefer having two 500-foot by 500-foot areas on the corner there, or are we interested in maintaining it all the way across the southern border?
All the way to the, I mean, I think wherever the bridge would land would be where I'd want
Yeah.
it to start, but that's a future.
Well, and we'll adjust that when we know.
This is so far out from development, I'm comfortable doing the whole.
Well, and I'd rather give people a heads up. It's to Chris's point, and actually support it. It's just, we're just trying to even give them more of a heads up. And in the land use map, even say, align to the Mountain View corridor.
Future
Corridor.
Gateway overlays down asterisks.
Yeah.
Line to Mountain corridor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm fine with the bigger footprint.
Okay, so it sounds like all the areas you're good with, except for you want to identify 4B as the preferred for
Yes.
that area.
And some changes to 3.
To 3?
Well, just rejecting the X's.
Oh, well, there's X's on 4 too.
We
didn't
have
point
to,
those
actually,
out.
we don't have to, because we'd have to, we'd have
That's
to,
just telling you that they have requested.
because it's not in the ordinance, yeah. At least I didn't read it in there.
No.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other? I will entertain a motion.
I will move that we, that we approve business item 3 as stated on the agenda, selecting, including staff findings and conditions, selecting option 3B.
4B.
Or B.
4B and all the other options as listed in
I'll
the
second.
packet.
But did you want to, oh, no, we don't have to. It's going on the land use map, sorry.
You don't have to say, not including the X's, right?
No, because it's not in the perfection.
Okay, I have first from Councilman Wilden.
Second from Porter? Porter said it. Second.
I seconded.
Oh, okay, second from Councilman Porter. Any further discussion?
Mayor, as I mentioned, we need to consider the written protests. So if they're written protests, they should be read on the record, and the council should know whether they,
We were told that there weren't any written protests.
No,
Well, no, for the Napa Auto.
Oh,
We
okay.
do have some others. They're
Okay.
in the packet. I don't have it in front of me, but if one of you could pull that up.
well, I mean.
Do they
if
have
the-
to be read, or can they be submitted?
I would say go ahead and read them if,
Okay.
I don't know how lengthy they are, but or you could just have a note on the minutes that you reviewed them.
In the past,
and you
we've read
considered
the first
them.
30 minutes of them,
You consider them
not the
and,
entirety. for-
It's part of our packet.
right.
Yeah, the
So do we
McLaughlin
need to put that into the
fairly
motion?
lengthy.
I would, yeah. Sure.
Acknowledging.
Sure, I think that's a good idea.
What?
Acknowledge the protest.
But
So-
if they're short, then I don't know if we could.
How
read-
long are they?
Okay.
Because I mean, I skimmed them. I skimmed the first 3 paragraphs, but then I got bored.
Could I just amend the motion to acknowledge receipt of those and include
Yeah.
those as,
Sure.
as in the
On the
minutes,
record.
on record?
I think that's good.
We're okay. Kevin says we're okay with just recognizing.
So that was my amendment.
Okay. So we've got
Seconded.
amended first from Wilden, amended second from Porter. Any further discussion?
Comber.
Did you grab that for the minutes? Do you need any clarification?
Received and acknowledged the written protests.
Yes.
Yep, for, on the record.
Did you second it? Oh,
It was him.
okay.
I already seconded it
I know,
again.
but I thought Carn said it. was
Sorry.
Okay. Carn,
Aye.
Porter,
Aye.
Wilden.
Aye.
Comber.
Aye.
Podeska.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Now that that is passed, the next one that comes in is, and maybe at request from the mayor, he can reach out to 1 or 2 of the council members. Would love to work with one of the developers who's actually going to be developing in the gateway overlay and sort of working with them, seeing where their problems are, maybe where we missed stuff, and then we can make adjustments. Because whenever we do this, there's always seems to be something that we missed, and the developers are good at opening.
Practice.
Yeah, and then it gives us real-life practice.
Yeah.
So if we could just present that to the mayor and he can ask for volunteers.
And just to let you know, we have started the process for creating some additional guidelines, architectural guidelines for the gateway.
And signage.
Chippy
and-
will be in charge of that.
Great, appreciate that.
I like Councilman Comber's idea. I don't think we have to wait if we've got 2 that want to.
I'm willing to do that on the.
Happy to do it.
Okay, so Councilman Carn, Councilman McComber.
So when you have the first one or two that come in, let's
And
work
if
with
we've
them.
got to tweak something, let's,
And we would push it through quickly. That way we can not hold them up. The whole point of this is to make the city better and not slower. Yep.
okay. Code amendment, gateway overlay uses, titles 19.04.11.
Okay, Councilman, this is the list showing what we're adding to our prohibited uses. So anything, I'll just briefly read through what they are. Alcoholic beverage, anything related to automobile, so rental, leasing, repair, sales, boat, vehicle sales and service. Then we have bar, building materials with outdoor storage, bus lot, cannabis production establishments, car wash, full service, self-service, equipment sales and services, kennel, commercial, light manufacturing, non-depository institutions, that, in case you don't know what is, it's like a check cashing business.